Welcome back to Certified TV Anim. Here are some scary horror suspense stories. Number 1, The Parasite. The first time Maria saw the parasite, it was in her dreams. She had no idea that she was being followed. It all started with a simple scratch on her foot. She thought nothing of it until the scratch grew red and inflamed. As days passed, it became clear that this was not a normal wound. This was something strange, something alien. Then came the nightmares. In her dreams, she'd feel an icy cold grip on her skin, and then the laughter. High-pitched, malicious laughter that echoed through her nightmares. The creature from her dream would always be there, watching her, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. But these were just dreams. Reality was where the real terror lay. The parasite had left its mark on her foot, and now it was growing, changing, taking on a life of its own. Maria tried to ignore it, but the wound refused to heal. It throbbed, it pulsed, and sometimes it seemed to move. One night, Maria woke up screaming. The nightmare so vivid that her sleep-dampened mind couldn't differentiate between dream and reality. She scrambled out of bed to go to the bathroom, where she stared at the mirror, trying to catch her breath. And that's when she saw it, a tiny slit just on her foot, pulsating faintly, like a second mouth breathing against her skin. With a trembling hand, she touched it, and in that instant, the pain was excruciating. The parasite was no longer dormant. It had woken up inside of her, and now it was feeding. Maria fell to the floor, the bathroom suddenly a place of torture rather than sanctuary. She kicked and screamed, but the sounds caught in her throat. She couldn't call out. The parasite had taken her voice. Now it was coming for everything else. Number 2, The Darkest Room. The old Victorian house had been in Emily's family for generations. Every room held a memory, a whisper of the past. But there was one room, the nursery, that was off limits. No one spoke of it, not even the oldest members of the family. When Emily was just 6 years old, her brother Thomas had disappeared from this very room. The police had called it an accident, a child lost in the labyrinthine halls of their mansion. But Emily knew better. She could still see the fear in her mother's eyes, the frantic search. The hollow look of defeat when they found only an empty crib and a shattered nightgown. Years later, now a young adult, Emily had returned home. The house was filled with the ghosts of the past. The nursery stood silent and menacing at the end of the hallway. Curiosity gnawed at Emily, and one night she gave in. She walked into the nursery. The air grew instantly colder, and Emily felt a prickling sensation on her arms as if countless tiny eyes were watching her every move. In the dim glow of the moonlight, she saw it, a rocking chair swaying gently back and forth. Emily froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Was she imagining this? Had the stress of her studies finally driven her insane? Just as she considered turning back, a whisper brushed against her ear, soft, sweet, and chilling. "Play with me," it said. The voice was like silk, yet it scraped against Emily's sanity. Her breath hitched in her throat. She wanted to scream, to run, but terror rooted her to the spot. From the corner of her eye, she saw the rocking chair move again. This time it was faster, more insistent. The voice whispered again, closer this time, "Play with me." And then Emily saw him, a boy no older than 5, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes hollow pits of darkness. He sat in the rocking chair, beckoning to her with his hands. Emily could only stare, frozen in a mixture of fear and fascination. Slowly, the boy climbed out of the chair and began to walk towards her. His movements were jerky, unnatural, like a robot controlled by an unseen controller. Emily took a step back, her mind screaming at her to run, to get away from this ghastly apparition. But her feet felt heavy, as if anchored to the floor. The boy stopped in front of her, his eyes boring into hers. "Play with me," he whispered, his voice a raspy echo. Emily felt a chill crawl up her spine. She wanted to speak, to ask who he was, how he had died, but no sound came out. All she could do was watch as the boy reached out a hand towards her, his touch promising not friendship, but something far more sinister. Number 3, Buried Secrets. Olivia had never felt at home in her new town. The old Victorian house was beautiful, but isolating. It had taken weeks for the mail carrier to find the place because the road wasn't on any maps. The locals either didn't know about the house or purposely avoided it. Olivia felt watched, judged. That's why she was surprised when she heard a knock at the door. A woman stood on her doorstep with a warm smile and friendly eyes. "I'm your new neighbor," she said, holding out a casserole dish. "I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood." Olivia accepted the food and invited her in. The interior of the house was dimly lit, and Olivia could hear her neighbor gasp behind her. "This house is gorgeous," she said, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Thank you," Olivia replied, feeling a sudden pang of loneliness. Her husband had insisted they move to this old house after his retirement. He wanted to fix it up and make it their forever home. But Olivia knew it was more than that. Her husband had secrets here, secrets he hadn't shared with her. The neighbor, sensing Olivia's discomfort, excused herself and left. Olivia went to her room and opened the closet. Inside, hanging on the back of the door, was a photo. It showed a younger version of her husband standing next to a group of men and women. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She recognized those faces. They were the same faces she had seen carved into the trees near the house. Faces that had haunted her dreams since she moved in. The photos fell to the floor and Olivia rushed to pick them up. On the back, she found the date, July 1968. The same date the local newspaper had reported the missing persons. Her husband must have known about this when he bought the house. But why? She turned to leave, but a sound stopped her. There was a knock at the front door. Olivia slowly approached it and peered through the peephole. To her horror, she saw the same group of people from the picture, their eyes burning with an eerie glow, their mouths twisted into cruel smiles. Then they were gone. Olivia hurried to lock the door, her fingers shaking. She knew then that she and her husband were in grave danger. Her husband wasn't just hiding something, he had brought them here for a sinister purpose. Number 4, the Shadow Man. The first time Sarah saw the Shadow Man, she dismissed it as a trick of the light. She had just moved into an old apartment building in New York City and was still getting used to the creaky floorboards and flickering lights. But as weeks passed, the sightings became more frequent. At first, it was just a fleeting glimpse of a dark, hulking figure at the end of her hallway. Then the encounters became bolder. The Shadow Man would stand in her doorway, his face obscured by the dim light, or sit on the steps leading to her floor, watching her with an unnerving intensity. Fear coiled in Sarah's stomach whenever she saw him. She tried to convince herself that he wasn't there, that her imagination was playing tricks on her. But the rational part of her knew better. There was something sinister lurking in the shadows of her building. The tension built with each passing day. Sarah started seeing the Shadow Man everywhere. In the reflection of shop windows, in the dusty panes of her apartment, even in the swirling steam rising from her morning coffee. His presence was a constant, an ominous specter haunting her every move. Driven by fear and desperation, Sarah decided to confront her stalker. She armed herself with a baseball bat, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. As she crept down the dimly lit stairs, the sound of her own breathing echoing around her, she could feel the Shadow Man's presence like a physical force pressing against her, watching her every move. Then she saw him sitting on the bottom stair, his head slumped slightly as if asleep. But as she descended the final steps, he stirred. The dim light filtering through the grimy window pane revealed his face, or what was left of it. His eyes were wide and vacant, his skin stretched taut over his cheekbones, revealing a glimpse of the darkness that lay within. With a strangled cry, Sarah raised the baseball bat, her years of self-defense training kicking in. The Shadow Man lunged at her, his long fingers like hooks, his teeth bared in a snarl. The fight was brutal, desperate, and Sarah knew that her survival instincts would be put to the ultimate test. But in that moment of primal fear and adrenaline, she found a strength she never knew she possessed. The struggle continued, and Sarah fought with the ferocity of someone protecting their own den. The Shadow Man, despite his supernatural appearance, wasn't as strong. He dodged her swings, his movements fluid and unsettlingly graceful. Yet as the fight raged on, Sarah could sense a change in him. His movements grew slower, his snarls becoming gurgling whispers. Finally, with a last surge of strength, Sarah landed a solid blow, the bat connecting with the Shadow Man's skull. He crumbled, his form flickering like a dying ember, and then he was gone, leaving Sarah to take his supernatural powers and ward of wickedness. As she stood in front of the flickering lamplight. That's all for today. Comment below which story was your favorite and why. If you want to hear more creepy or supernatural stories, stay tuned. And remember, some things are best left in the darkness.